Alrighty. Hello everyone. Hopefully the stream is all set up and ready to go. But welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. Oh, look at that. there's some tiles missing from this area, but that's probably from what I was working on last week. Welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. Back again and working on some more like level design stuff and some character stuff. So the name of the stream actually is about making a mammoth, and we're gonna be making a mammoth today. So many folks in chat already. Thank you so much for being here. I see Angry Berry and Bub and Wolf and Snibo and King Bloom. Thank you so much for joining me today. Olive Branch and Q Merc, Faraday. What I'm going to do, actually I'm going to pull this up real quick, is get that, what was it, the sprite for the mammoth that I'm going to be working on. Reese Thomas and Future 34 and Past, Aaron, the Lava God, Nick and Sophie, thank you so much again for being here. So the sprite I'm going to be working on is actually something that was made earlier by another artist. Let me pull this up really quick. There he is. Look at this little guy. I actually really like this. And he is animated as well. Oh, your oxidized toes. Hi, welcome. I remember you. So he has a little bit of an animation. So this animation and these sprites were made by Ellie Sprites. And today I'm going to be trying to start putting him into the game. And, oh, is he a boss over a mini-boss? No, actually, the intent is that I'm going to make him, like, a character. Or, like, an, I'm not sure if he's going to be an NPC or if he's going to talk. I think that he's going to be just, like, a character in town that helps with something. So, specifically, the idea is that he drains the well with his trunk. So, that might be a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but here's the whole set of sprites that she delivered, and I'm putting them together into a sheet. And there's this section down here, I really love this, where he sticks his trunk down, and he's like sucking up water. And then he's going to spray it up in the air. So there's a lot to do, there's a lot to program for this, and the reason I waited so long to implement like the features here is just because I wanted to make sure that the mob code that this was going to be a part of was functional and working and good to go. Because if I were to code like the movement stuff and the animations, and then it turns out that the NPC code or the mob code, whatever it is that I decide to use this with, if that code changes, then it would have been too annoying to deal with. But yeah, I'm going to be able to essentially all NPCs and all enemies are going to be considered the same sort of like code entity. They're all going to be considered mobs. So this is going to be a mob. It's just like, how are you going to interact with them? I'm not fully sure yet. I think that he is going to be found like, here, I'll pull up the maps. I've been in a big like level design and layout and figuring out the order of things sort of kick. It's been a lot of work figuring all these things out, but I have this map here that I've been working on, and the reason why it's so empty like a big island is because I think that this is going to be where the balloon minigame is. So in the current Steam demo, there's a balloon minigame on an island, and I'm like, well, I kind of want to keep that. So I made a new island. Is he going to be a boss? No, he's planning to be like an NPC that is able to drain the well. So on this map... Oh, you can't see it. I'm going to have to go there. Here, I'll warp to here. Oh, all the tiles are really messed up right now because I've been editing them. But right now the well is drained, and so before there was like no explanation for why the well was draining. It would just like drain randomly, and I'm like, there needs to be some reason why the well gets drained. So I'm like, let's make an elephant. I'm gonna make an elephant that drains the well with his trunk. Why? I don't know. There's no reason why. I just thought that it was funny. Finished Deltarune Chapter 1, and so you're gonna do Chapter 2. Awesome. I really love Deltarune. Both chapters I think are really good. I think I like 2 a little bit more than 1, but I like them both. You might have noticed that the music bot still isn't working. If anyone has suggestions for a some kind of music player that also like posts in the chat the song title. So I've been using Mix It Up to do that, and just recently it has not even been. Whoa! Oh no! the layout's all screwed up. There we go. But the problem is that whenever I go to sign in to Mix It Up, it's just like doesn't work. It's just not working. So I need to figure out something else for my music bot. So let's see. Another thing I wanted to show is these stumps. I should probably show the stumps end to end before doing anything else. One second, my chat reader is not displaying the chat anymore. That's so annoying. Am I able to refresh? This is crazy. The pop-out YouTube chat just isn't showing me updated. Oh, the window crashed. That's why. Okay. I'm gonna have to try that again. Oh, my whole browser crashed. Is the stream still live? I think that there's some technical issues right now. Give me one moment while I figure out what's going on. Stream is alive? Okay, my entire browser completely crashed. So it felt like the entire stream went down. The chat is really delayed. What else can I do about that? Yeah, I think that momentarily it was down for a moment. I'm inspired you to begin learning game dev. Awesome, that's so cool. Let me get this chat set up one more time. Sorry about that. I don't mean to just like stall and do nothing for a bit. 7 seconds? 7 seconds delay is okay. That's not ideal. Wow, you should see how bad this is. This is so bad. It's just like not working. Yeah, the browser crashed again. Oh no. Oh no. We're having issues. You're beginning with a classic Asteroids clone? Awesome! So cool! You ported MOONSHIRE to the web and even got shaders working? Yeah, there's a lot that could be done. I know that I could port it, but the thing is, the game still has so much work to do before I do any sort of, like, porting work. What browser am I using? Oh, I'm using Edge. Maybe that's the problem. Stream is okay on your side. That's good. I might have recovered. It feels better now. Maybe my internet went down for a bit because it was I was having problems. Can you show how I made the Y sorting? Yeah, I can show that real quick. I've showed that a few times on the stream, but I have this Sprite manager file that I made, and literally what it does is every frame, it's going to iterate through every single thing in the game, every single tree, every wall, every prop, every platform, every spike, every resource, every single thing in the game. You can see that there's a loop, and it just goes through every single one, and it adds those things to a list along with the Y position of those things, and that helps with sorting it so that it gets drawn in the appropriate order. So that's what's been going on. And don't you dare have issues during your first time being here. I'm so sorry if I am, but hopefully that things are going to be better now. It feels like every stream there's always a little bit of a hiccup, but, you know, not that big of a deal. Wait the whole week for MOONSHIRE Monday. Well, you know what? Honestly, me too. That's nice of you to say. But I used to make sprites and how to make the game and music. Wasn't I at 109k last week? So the channel has been growing pretty well. The channel grows. Oh, there's a really big delay between the chat and what's showing up on screen. The channel grows by about 5k subs per month, so it's been growing at a good rate, which is nice. I think that a big part of that comes from shorts. So obviously I haven't been posting full videos, and I kind of want to mention that too. Is that the format for my devlogs I think is going to have to change in a very big way, where I think they're going to try to make devlogs that are a bit more informal and less scripted, because when I have it scripted and highly edited and produced, it's just very, very time consuming. and really, I want to get content out and get my ideas out there and share the work that I've been able to do. But the way I've been doing it is just because this is what I mean is I have so many different conflicting priorities. If I were to make a list, I have the game. Whoops, not game development. Okay, so this is my #1 priority. And then after that, I've been enjoying my weekly streams a ton. So this is like my second priority, where I definitely want to be doing game development, and I definitely want to keep doing the weekly streams. On top of it, the shorts / TikToks are really, really good. I think I do a good job with producing these, and I like how they turn out. Even though they are a lot of work and it's hard to come up with ideas sometimes, I really like the process that I've come up with, and people like them, and they get popular. So I think it's important that I keep up with these. And then finally, full videos comes last, and it comes last because it's the most time-consuming thing to make. It is also my least favorite part of these 4 things. Making full videos is just not something I want to focus my time on, because here's the thing: if a full video takes me 10 hours of work, that's 10 hours that I'm not spending on game development, and I really, really need to work on game development because this game is so far behind. It's unbelievable. It's been like a year since the last Steam update, so all of these things are kind of in conflict with each other, and I'm starting to have to make some like tough choices. Why Mammoth? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the Mammoth, because that's obviously the elephant in the room, so to speak. Wow. Did this crash too? Look, I'm trying to close this and it's not closing. Dude, maybe, I don't know what the deal is. It's the Mammoth in the room, yeah. So here's the Mammoth in the room. LE delivered all of these sprites, and I love how they turned out. They look really, really nice. Only 3 life, it's very difficult. The idea is that the game starts and you only have 3, but when you pick up a weapon, it gives you an additional 3 health. So really, when you're holding this great axe, it's like you have 6 health, which is plenty. So here's all the sprites. Like I said, these were not made by me. I commissioned these. I paid LA to make these. And now I'm starting the process of like organizing them and figuring out which ones of these I'm going to be using, because the original plan for the Mammoth was a little bit different than what I'm planning to do now. I was planning to have it so he was located just south of town, and then you like woke him up, so he was like sleeping here. These are like sleeping sprites, and actually I can kind of show how that looks because it's animated. It's really fast. I would slow it down, obviously, but we got 2 animations here. We got the idle animation and we got the sleepy animation. But the way I think I'm going to introduce this character is going to be a little bit different than what I originally set out to do. I think I want to make it so that this elephant, or mammoth, is found on this little island over here, because this island is really out of the way and hard to get to. I've been really thinking through the flow of this game in the order of events, and it takes a while to get to this island, so I think it's a good spot for him. So what I'm planning to do is have the elephant like over here or something, and he's being attacked. He's being attacked by 2 like frog monsters or the bunyips or something. And when you get to the island, it like starts a battle, and then after you help the elephant, then he goes back to town, and then when you go back to town and you find the well, which is right here, he'll be standing next to it and you can talk to him, and then he'll drain the well. So that's my creative solution to a weird problem. The problem was I have this well and I need some kind of like story reason to explain why it's being drained. And I tried to come up with so many different ideas to get this well drained on why it would happen. I originally came up with like an NPC would put explosives in the well and then it would explode all the water out. Or I was thinking about doing a Zelda reference where someone plays an instrument and then that drains the well. But at the end of the day, I think that I think it's funnier to go with the elephant because it's not something that you would expect. It's almost like I'm almost going with the least, I don't know what to say, least likely option, but more like the most unusual and weird option, because I don't think people are going to expect to find an elephant or a mammoth randomly, so I think it'll be a funny thing. Ride the mammoth into a ram to discover hidden dye. I'm thinking about doing something like that. So actually, on top of this, I asked Ellie to make some additional versions that included this little girl. So I have some ideas for how I want to like make these characters friends, but I think it's funny to have a little girl that rides the elephant in some cases. It's like Maggie and the Ferocious Beast. Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie type progression. It kind of, yeah. I can barely write Lua correctly. C++ is too out of my range. C++ is more challenging, that's for sure. And that's why I always like recommending Lua as a starter language, because it's typically, or in general, easier than something like C++, because C++ has the references that you have to deal with, and you have to understand like strong typing, and some of the syntax is a bit old school. You know, it's an old language, C++, compared to Lua, which is a bit more modern. Make the mammoth gray. That is something that I can test out, because the brown look to it is a little bit too... It's a little bit too typical. We can make the color whatever I want. So I think that it's more fun if we make it an interesting color, and we can work on that right now, actually, so that's a perfect thing to do. Because if it was gray like an elephant, we can make it like an ice blue gray. And by the way, a lot of these are not going to look good. This is just like testing things out. It looks like he's like a... I don't even know what he looks like now. But I think that for the next like 15 or so minutes, I'm going to be trying out different color combinations. White? Okay, let's make him like a really bright, like... Actually, that's kind of funny. Looks frozen. That's scary. Let's see. I think that a light color might look a little bit too stark. So I might try something like this. See, I gotta be careful though, because I have this other character. Where is it? It is the crocodile. The bosses and Croc. Okay. So I have this crocodile boss, and by the way, Ellie made this guy too. I did change the colors, so I changed the color choices, but I decided on this dark blue style for him. So I do want to make sure that... Oh, wow, he's big. I do want to make sure that the mammoth is distinct visually from this guy. I'll put this guy down here. What if the player diet? That's actually funny. What's my opinion on Python? I love Python. I think Python's really good. I used it when I was in my first job out of college. Or sorry, it was my internship during college. I used Python a lot. But I do really like it. I used it at Microsoft a little bit too, now that I think about it. What musical instruments do I use to make music? To make the music for the game, I don't really use any instruments. The only thing I use is a like MIDI keyboard, which... Sorry about that. So all of the music that I produce for the game is made digitally. So I do it all on my computer, and I could probably do a stream at some point where I show all of that. But all of the music is made using like one of these, you call it a MIDI keyboard. So something like this. And that's what I use to make all of the music for the game. So basically that little keyboard plugs into the computer, which connects to my DAW, digital audio workstation, and then I'm able to like play virtual instruments with it. And the reason I do it that way rather than like playing traditional instruments, because sure, I could play regular guitar or I could play piano, I can do those things, but it's there's so many effects and patterns and arpeggiators and cool sequences that you can use in music production, and it's hard to avoid like the benefit of using synthesized stuff. So most of the music and most of the sounds in the game are synthesized. I say I'm drawing a mammoth there. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm drawing it. I'm working on the colors right now because Ellie handled the hard part of drawing it, and now I'm just experimenting with like what color I want to make it. We can make him a big Cheeto guy. Okay. Who's feeling the Cheeto elephant? That might be a little bit much. Pink like a pig? Not a bad idea. Yeah, let's try that. Hydrate. Thank you, Allfather. Appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna try pink. I actually like this. This is actually funny. I'm feeling the pink because it's so weird. Maybe a darker pink? How about... This would fit with the kid. Yeah, it probably would. Pink is my favorite so far, but I bet we can find something better still. Let's try like a pale lavender. Ooh, I'm liking this. That's pretty good too. Yoshi music? Oh yeah, I love the Yoshi's Island soundtrack. You know what I should do is I should make a collage of them. That's what I normally do. So I'm gonna make a big collage. So we're gonna make a big collage of elephants, and then we're gonna decide on what color we like best. And this is gonna be the best stream ever. I hope the thumbnail turns out to be like a multicolored, I don't know, a multicolored elephant Wonderland. We're gonna make it 256 by 256. So we got a lot of room for elephants. Whoa! Whoa! What am I doing? Whoa! What did I press? Whoa, I didn't know you could do that. Okay. Okay, so there's our first option is... Okay, we're gonna try all kinds of them, don't worry. So let's make this one acid green, someone said. That's a little bit too much. Let's make it, See, the trick is, like, in-game, these colors look good here. Well, I mean, the green one's a little bit strong, but when you put the sprites in-game, the colors might not gel very well. And it's something that I always have trouble with, is that even though, like, I will plan out the colors really well on an a sprite like this, putting it in the game just reveals too many problems sometimes. Make the top bit dark brown. Okay, so I'm sure at some point I'll need to start experimenting with changing the hair tuft to a different color of hair versus the rest of his body. Right now I'm gonna stick with finding just sticking with the monochrome palette, and then we can start mixing them later. Okay, so what's the next color that I want to try out? I'm gonna try something like... Well, let's make it darker this time. See, a dark color does blend nicely. That's a little dark, but let's try it a little brighter than this. See, this looks nice, but it's a little bit basic. It's a little bit basic. It does look good, though. I do like it. I like the green one. That hair is majestic. I know, I wish my hair looked that good. The color would need to fit that it's in. You're right. And so that's a good point. Let's point that out. So the elephant is going to be found in two locations primarily. One is right here in this grassy area in town. And the other is on this island somewhere. And I might change this island to something else. I'm thinking about changing this map because there's so much water in this game. I'm thinking about changing it so that the map is more like this. So instead of an island, it's like an inlet. Because I'm starting to get worried that there's too much water in the game. But I'm going to leave it like this as an island. So he's in he's in the bit more brightly lit areas. So make him grass color. I think I'm not going to make him grass color just because the game is very green already. And I think that it has a bit too much. Yeah, exactly. 7.8 too much water. I literally said the same thing to one of my friends. I was explaining this earlier. I literally said, remember that IGN review 7.8 too much water. That's literally what I was thinking when I was like worried about that. Is that it really is just a lot, and I think people are gonna get annoyed with it. Okay, let's try a typical brown. The thing is, it started off brown, and I do actually like these. Let's just copy these over, so we have that as a reference. Yeah, that's honestly, looking at these, the brown one probably does look the best. It's just I want to find something more unique than brown. Does the water have mechanical applications? Yes, the water is definitely a mechanic in the game. Let me find a place I can show that. Probably Snow River. So like, there's sections of the game where since you can't swim, you can like go across the water, but if you stay in the water for too long, then you'll sink. So it's like, it is a mechanic that you can only go in the water for a short bit to get across gaps, and later on in the game, you'll unlock the ability to swim. So it is a mechanic. It's just, I don't want to overdo it. Something between Cheeto and brown. Yeah, probably. I think it's a good suggestion. So if this is Cheeto and this is brown, let's see. Cheeto is this. Let's make it a little bit more yellow. See, I guess the problem with this color is that, whoa, is that it looks like skin color, I think. Yeah, that's a bit too much. What do you think is the worst game you've ever played? See, that's a really challenging question, because if a game's bad, I tend to drop it very quickly. Worst game I've ever played. I don't know. I don't know. I'll think about that. I'll think about what the worst game I've ever played is. I can't really say, because the ones that are coming off the top of my head aren't the worst games ever. They're just things that really pissed me off, like Bravely Default. Bravely Default pissed me off probably more than any game ever, but that's not the worst game I've ever played. I actually like that game a lot. It's just, there's a part of it, and if you played Bravely Default, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's a part that ruins the game, and I was so angry about it that I don't know. It made me so mad, but that's not the worst game I ever played. There's definitely worse ones that I played. Black and White. Let's try Black and White. I think White's gonna be a bit too strong, but if it... I mean, that does look kind of cool. The worst game ever, because like these days I have way too much I care about my own time enough to not play bad games, and I used to have that mentality of, when I started a game, I would make it a point to actually finish it so I could get the full experience, and then I could say that I finished it. And I do still kind of feel that way, but these days, no. If I notice that I'm not having fun with a game, I will stop. Even if it's pretty good. Like recently, I did not finish Metaphor ReFantazio. I got like 12 hours in, and then I realized that like there were parts that I really liked, but there were other parts that I really did not like, and it just wasn't worth my time. There's other games that I'd rather be playing. Compare that to like Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I couldn't even put that game down. I loved it so much. It was impossible to put down. You think gray and black would be okay? Let's try gray and black. And also, instead of gray, let's try like gray blue. No, that's a little bit too saturated. Okay, gray and black. That's actually pretty good. I think gray and black does look good. Or it's like pale gray blue and then like pale dark gray blue. Gray looks like a normal elephant. Yeah, that's the thing that I was kind of like trying to avoid. Reddish brown like an ice age. Yeah, someone on Discord posted an Ice Age Mammoth. And yeah, let's try reddish brown. So if I go to red and then let's move this over to brown slightly, maybe like this. Ooh, that's kind of a cool color. Yeah, that was a good suggestion. I do like this one. Yeah, this one's nice. Neon blue, okay. This is gonna be the most beautiful collage of colorful elephants ever. I'm so excited. Okay, neon blue. So if that'd be like, neon's gonna be way too strong, but it's gonna be funny to see at least. Oh my gosh, that's like hard to look at. This is like it's like Pretty Patties from SpongeBob. Which do I like better, Hollow Knight or Undertale? I probably like Hollow Knight more, just because in terms of like a game that you can replay, Hollow Knight is way more, well, I don't know, they're both replayable, but what I mean is that Undertale is kind of like a complete experience, and once you finish it, I feel like I'm done. Where at that point it's just like listening to the music, which I love. But Hollow Knight is like a game that really is a game that you can just like play and have fun with. Aren't the first and the fourth the same color? Oh yeah, I must have forgot to change that. Let's do that afterwards. Also, my music is very quiet. I changed the volume for some of my songs. I need to fix this one. Oh, that's better. The Infinity Elephants. Yeah, basically. I want to try a yellow one. The Golden Elephant. It's not gonna work. The problem with yellow is that dark yellow looks bad. Like, it just looks like snot. Of people asking the same question until you finally answer it. I don't mind people asking the same question, because like I can't answer everyone's questions and I can't see everyone's questions. So if I miss your question, it's okay to retype it again. You know, in like 30 seconds or a minute or so. It's not. I wouldn't consider that spamming. I only consider it spamming if you like press like send a message over and over and over again, like nonstop. That's spamming. But like repeating your question is okay. What kind of attacks will the mammoth have? I actually don't think I'm going to make the mammoth an enemy. I think I'm going to make it a non-hostile NPC that helps you. So, how do you handle your enemies not clumping up? Ooh, that's a great question, and they do kind of clump up at the moment. Because if you design your enemies where they just chase you and they're kiting you, then that has a tendency for them to all line up together, like you're saying. So I have a plan to put in. I have this mob navigation, where this is how it chooses what tile or what point to move towards, and it's going to have to also consider in this section what tiles and like positions other enemies are at, so that the enemy doesn't move towards other enemies and it like has a bit of separation. So let's go back here. I'm still up for more color suggestions, by the way. Am I making all the aspects of the game by myself? No, I'm making most of it by myself, but I'm getting help with the pixel art. In fact, oh, actually, this is like the Wildberry Pop-Tarts, this color scheme. I do a lot of the pixel art myself, but I also commission a lot of the artwork. Like, this elephant was made by Ellie. It wasn't made by me. I'm just working on the colors right now and finding a creative color for this guy. But I am making all the music. I'm making all of the code. And I'm doing all of the marketing. I'm doing a lot. Turquoise, yes. I think that would be like this, or turquoise. That's more like this. I love turquoise. This is one of my favorite colors. More like blue turquoise. Like, this is a bit more green than what I personally like, but I think that it fits this guy pretty nicely. That's cool. Light grayish with grayish blue hair. Let's try that. So we're gonna try light grayish with grayish blue hair. would have to be like dark gray. And I kind of did that a little bit earlier. Because it reminds me of this one. This one's kind of the same way where it's like, this is dark gray. I guess this is a lighter version. But this is also like blue-gray. It's funny, like when you look at colors independently, individually, it's hard to tell that there's any blue in this elephant here. This just looks like a gray elephant. But like if you look at the color, it has plenty of blue in it. But like when you choose colors to mix together, it works really well when you mix hues too. In fact, I should be doing that here too. Like for this one. If we gave him this color here, and then we wanted to make his hair a darker color, it makes sense to give it more saturation, less lightness, and then also let's shift the hue more towards purple. So yeah, and like it's not much of a difference, but it's a little bit of variety. White plus vibrant red hair. Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it on this one. See, the thing about the... We gotta make it blend. That could work. So right now all of the hair has the same color as the like texture shading thing. What games inspired me to work on this game? I would say Hollow Knight and Zelda Link's Awakening. Congrats to Ellie. I know she's a really, really good artist. Chicken Mammoth. Probably not. Turn the hair into a brain. It kind of looks like a brain. Ew. Yeah, let's make it a brain. Okay, this is gonna be the brain boy. I guess it needs to be more pink than that. And then we'll give it like little... This is really dumb. This is great music for my brain artwork. This is so bad. How do you like this though? This is what happens when like you have me do pixel art on the fly. It actually looks kind of good. It looks like his exposed brain. That is so weird. Okay, we got, that's a pretty good option. I wasn't expecting to like that, but exposed brain mammoth is not bad. Make him veiny. I don't know if I can do that. I don't want to... I think I want to move on. His super obvious weakness. Yeah, I wonder what this one's weak point is. Okay, that was a very good suggestion. I like that. Looks like a zombie, though. Yeah, we can make this one into the zombie elephant. Okay, we'll go ahead and just, like, really lean into it. I'm gonna get, like, really pale green. Like a zombie. Oh, that actually looks kind of awesome. Okay. Yeah, sorry if I'm missing your question. I'm juggling a few different things at once. Can I make a zebra one? Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, and then let's also... I think if he's a zombie, I can like give him like little shreds or scars or something like that. It'll probably be like this color. Maybe brighter. I think that I can just use the accent color. See, the thing about, like, my texturing is that I wouldn't say I'm very good at it. And, like, whenever I texture things, is, like, I throw things at the sprite, and then if it looks good, then I keep it. But in this case, like, I think this one looks okay, but these other two don't look good, so I'm just gonna get rid of them. Or maybe I can, like, adapt. I'm not gonna spend any more time on this. I'm not actually going to keep this this zombie guy, but I'll kind of fill it in some way. And then let's like give him some like little nasty. I don't really want to make him bloody, but it kind of works since he's a zombie. And then I need a darker shade. It's so gross. It's funny though. And how about we make his tusks bloody too? This is spooky. That's actually pretty sick. I do actually like this. The blood's too bright. I need to make it less bright. That's too desaturated now. It's the opposite problem. Okay, that's pretty good. These scars look pretty decent. I think I'm gonna add more. I don't know why I'm spending time on this. I don't think I'm gonna use this. Maybe he can be like an extra side boss that has the zombie. Okay, I think Undertale would work as a movie. Yeah, probably. Because there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of talking and a lot of characters. I always have trouble with video game movies that are based on, like, characters that don't talk. Because that seems like something that would be harder to adapt. And I think I'm gonna make this. And we'll fill this in. This is gross. Alright, there's our zombie. I actually kind of like it. The sores don't look good. I think I'm gonna get rid of those. Most of these look bad. I think I just need to get rid of the coloring, the red coloring in there. Okay, we're gonna keep him like that. I think he looks fine. Didn't expect to join to fight a zombie mammoth. I know, I'm kind of going a little bit crazy here. It's more like someone said change his hair into a brain, and then it kind of got out of hand from there. We're gonna leave it as is. Man, he hasn't been taking care of himself. It looks good, thank you. I don't think I'm gonna actually use this. I was just doing this for fun. Really, what I'm trying to do is find what color scheme to use for this elephant, because I know I want to put him in the game because the sprite's good. It's just what color should he be? Should he be acid green, or should he be wildberry Pop-Tart? They're both good. I think that the red one's pretty good. I think this one's my favorite one so far. Let's see if I can edit this. So, like I was saying before, I like the skin color, so let's try making it a different hue. Oh, I need to change this back to contiguous. One thing you might not have noticed is that my bucket fill tool is able to fill in every version of a color. So look, I could have it fill in only this section, like that, like this, or I can go non-contiguous, and then it fills in every color of the same color. So I need to be going non-contiguous in this case. It needs to be darker, and also, I think it would look better if I go the other way in the hue. But that just becomes brown. Yeah, brown's not a very good color for this. Yeah, I'm gonna make it more red. Whoop! I don't know, like looking at these, this one over here is pretty good. I do like this one a lot. I think this one's my favorite so far. Looks like poo, a little bit. I mean... no, it's a tear. What about two mammoths with some lore reason to fight a zombie one? Maybe. I think the zombie one is just going to be like a little Easter egg. This is just a fun thing I made. I am happy with how the brain turned out. It does look like a brain. You gotta give it some more texture. It looks too smooth. Yeah, you're right. It definitely does need more texture. I could try that. Okay, so let's try that. We can try, like, putting in some wrinkles. I always get very hesitant about this process just because it's time-consuming and I'm not very good at it. But all I'm trying to do is kind of, like, follow the curvation of like where his body would be. So since like he's got a round belly around this way, I'm just kind of drawing lines along that. And like here I would draw it this way. See, a proper artist probably would know better how to do this, but see, and then my problem is that, like, this actually doesn't look very good, and I think it's either because my lines aren't long enough, or my color choice needs to be different. Looks like a rash. It does look like a rash. I think that even if I change the color, I think I'm going to wait to do any texturing on him because it would take a long time and it wouldn't look very good. The Mammoth. I think for now, I just want to decide on the base colors, and then I can ask Ellie to do something different. What are the mammoths about? So in the game, there's a well. So if I warp over to the farm, there's this well, and I have it drained, but like in the game, there needs to be some like action or event that causes the well to be drained. And I thought of like a billion different ideas for what could drain the well. And in the end, I just decided I'm just going to have an elephant come up and drain it. And, like, why an elephant? I don't really know, because it could be anything, I guess, but an elephant makes sense like, in some way. A setting to apply the zombie texture? Maybe. Let's see. So, I'm still trying to decide on his hair, because I want to change it a little bit more than just... No, that doesn't look good. I don't think any shade like that. I think it has to be either red or orange or purple. I don't think it's going to look any other way. Which, that looks good with instead of like a... Because this one's like a brown red or it's like a brown red, and this is more like a purple red. I think the purple red looks a little bit nicer, but it is less red overall. Let me see. Maybe I can make it darker. I think this might actually look pretty good. Yeah. We have to fight the elephant. Currently, that's not the plan. The plan is just that it will be a friendly little elephant fight. So I'm gonna save this sheet to like, I'm gonna call it Mammoth Colors .png. Okay. A huge slime draining a well would also be a good idea. Oh, that's cool. Like a slime could jump in and then like swell up and absorb it all. You want to name that? His name is Harold. Harold the elephant. I do like the name. It's a pretty good name. That can be his unofficial name. So I'm going to use these colors for now because I do like these. And back over here. Oh, what was I doing? Yeah, this is one annoying thing about a Sprite. So am I able to apply this color change to all of these? No. It's just like one at a time. That's really dumb. But that's okay. We'll go one frame at a time. And then grab this. There we go. Okay. There's our mammoth. And I like his color scheme. It's a little unusual, and I think that's kind of why I like it. Is that I could have gone with a brown or gray, and that would probably look a little bit more natural, but this is kind of neat. I like that it's more orange and red. That's cool. Looks like evil though. You know, maybe we can make him even more evil. Oh no. Oh no. He's so angry. That's scary. Big bad Harold, I know. Well, now it looks like he has an eye patch. I'm kind of having trouble making angry eyes. that's pretty funny. You disturbed his sleep, and now he sucks up water to soak you. Yeah, he's mad about it. That could work. now he looks annoyed. I should experiment with his eyes because his default eyes are pretty good. Well, they're okay because right now they're just like squares. I think I can do better than that actually. What happened to the cloud place? It's just in progress. I'm focusing on other areas for now. That's all. I'm still gonna put the cloud place ain't going anywhere. I shouldn't be making him mad because he's not going to be mad in the game. This is funny though. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the default. Looked like the Khmer dog on Full Metal Alchemist. I'm not familiar with that. So instead of making him mad, I actually want to make him happy. Because he's like a friendly little elephant man. This is hard. So that doesn't look like an eyeball. That looks a little bit more like an eyeball. It looks like scary and beady. I think it needs to be bigger. Add blush. Yeah, I could do that. Well, is it a lady or is it a boy? I always thought of it as a boy because that has tusks, but it could be a lady. I should add this, like, purple accent, though, that's for sure. That's okay. Don't assume it's gender. Yeah, I really shouldn't. In fact, that always kind of bothered me that in Pokemon, there's Mamoswine, and the female Mamoswine has smaller tusks, and it just doesn't look as good. And it makes me sad that there's just a version of Mamoswine that doesn't look as good as the other one. I think I kind of like that. This looks a little bit more like an eyeball, because before it looked like that. It doesn't look that much different. Widen the people? I can try. So the style of this eyeball is different than the rest of the game. Oh, actually, look at that. That looks good. That looks a lot more like the rest of the game. Because most of the game has characters with eyeballs that are just like vertical lines like this. And it would be nice if I could do the same thing for this elephant. Yeah, like that. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. Or should I get rid of all of these? No, I like having that accent there. Should I add more accent? Should I add, like, eyebrows? No. 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 I think that it's fine as it is. Make it 3 or 6 big? That's probably gonna be too much. That's already too... Yeah, that's gonna be too much. I think that this size eyeball is pretty good. In fact, if anything, if anything, I would do this, where he's like looking down with a beady eyeball. I could try this. That's pretty good too. Now, how about this? Instead of a white iris or a white pupil, we make it white, or instead of black is white. No. We're not doing that. The black eye kind of makes a little bit more sense. What if we, made all of this white and then changed the pupil to be black? That just looks terrifying. We're not doing that. I think that this... Whoops. I think that this is pretty good. The white looks weird. Yeah, so this is how I do pixel art, is that it's just like trying tons of things until it ends up looking good, because it's hard to predict what will look good. Very outer edge white. Okay, I can try that. And I'm going to use something other than white, because white's too strong. Okay, I see what you're saying. I think that anything too bright is going to be a bit too strong. I think that I need the contrast. I think that black works really well because it has that contrast with the rest of his face. But I guess white also can have contrast with the rest of the face. And then if we made this black... No. Or what if we made it white? No. I think that this is as good as it's gonna get. Imagine if the Mammoth goes wild and spills water right everywhere. What I plan to have him do is he spits or shoots water up in the air with his trunk. Oh. Wait. Oh, never mind. Yeah, so there's these sprites here where it's like... Whoops. It's sucking water up with its trunk, and then down here it's shooting it up. Why aren't merge opacity of colors to make new ones? And so good, it seems like you could use a lot. Well, merging the opacity of colors, when you, so what you're saying is, like, let's say that I draw a red block right here, and then a yellow block right here, and then I could merge them together. But actually, it's not a red and yellow block, it's a half opacity yellow block, and then a half opacity red block. And then when you merge them together, it makes new colors, like you said. It literally blends them like paint. Look, it makes orange. I literally just combined two colors to make a new color. Kind of like what you're saying. That can work, but you have to start with good color. You have to start with good colors to start, and also the alpha channels, the alpha channel that you choose for each of the ingredient colors matters a lot, because if you make the red half alpha, but the yellow a quarter alpha, that would make this into more of a like reddish brown as opposed to a yellowish brown, which is what would have been if you switched that ratio. Do you have all the positions in mind when I make the sprite? No, not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite, where I really don't know where everything's going to be when I start the sprite. And also, again, full disclosure, Ellie made this sprite. I'm just working on the eyeballs and the colors, so I'm just making the adjustments. But even with the adjustments, even that, I don't know exactly what I'm doing until kind of things are moving along. I wouldn't say this eyeball is perfect. What if I move it back? Does this look better? The delay is like 34 seconds. I think it's gonna be different for everyone, and if you refresh the stream, it might help. How is the chat delay for everyone else? Hopefully it's not that big of a deal for everyone else, because yeah, if it's 30 plus seconds, that's pretty bad. But 5 seconds, like Wolf is saying, that's 5 seconds is what I would expect it to be. Okay, we're gonna leave this eyeball as is because I think it looks, or actually wait, I moved it. Does it look better like that, or when I moved it? I actually think I liked it better when I moved it. The tail is too short? Okay, try that. Imagine the mammoth's hair is actually a hat, and the mouse controlling it. I've heard that story before. I think that... I'm getting so indecisive. I think I'm gonna leave it like this, and I can always change it later. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that eyeball. That's how it used to look. Before and after. Before, after. Before, after. Well, actually, I need to put this into place properly. Yeah, this needs to go up. 1. There we go. Any reason you don't stream more than 1 day a week? Just curious. I'd say the main reason is that I don't want to get burnt out on it, and the more I stream, I imagine the more quickly I will run out of things to say. And right now, streaming 2 hours a week is perfect for me. I can, like, it really feels good. So I'll stream more maybe in the future, but right now, though, once a week is pretty good. Because kind of like what I was showing before with my, oh, I already closed it, where I showed, like, game dev and stream, and then shorts, and then full videos. It's like every time I make a choice to do one of these things, as opposed to game development, it's kind of a problem. I need to be making more choices that lead to me spending more time on game development, but at the same time, I don't want to like neglect the channel or keep you guys in the dark, or just make it go too long without uploading a video. It is important that I do all these things, but since I like game development the most, that's what I should spend most of my time on. I love streaming. That's what I would spend another bit of my time on. I'm really good at making shorts and people like them, so it's like that's also on my list, and full videos just take so much time that I've been kind of having trouble balancing it in general. Do I have a system to manage my dev time? No, and I would say that is a problem for me, is that my time management skills are iffy. There are times when I do a good job with it, but really, I'd say at the moment, I'm kind of just doing work as I see fit when I feel like doing it. When really it should be more like I should be working at the exact same times every day and getting a consistent amount of work done every day, when instead it's like some days I get a ton of work done and some days I don't get quite as much done, and then some days I spend the day like thinking or theorizing or planning things out, whereas the next day is I don't know, it just comes and goes. The tail is pissing you off? I mean, yeah, let's try making the tail bigger. So let's see. Let's look up what does a mammoth's tail actually look like. Let's look up mammoth tail on DuckDuckGo images. I'm sure this is gonna be amazing. I don't know, man. Whoever was saying that looks like a pretty short tail to me. So I think Ellie might have made the mammoth based off of a reference, because the tail that she drew looks pretty close to what this reference is showing. Whoops. Oh, no. Oh my gosh. Go. Okay, so it originally looked like this. You know, I guess I could make it longer. I think your suggestion is still good, because I think it would look better if it was like, maybe not like that. I think that how it is fine. I think we're just gonna leave it how it was. Do I do game dev full-time? Yes. At the moment, it's just full-time. I was a software developer for a while, but these days I just work on game dev. And as far as like how I pay for everything, because the channel doesn't make that much money. My YouTube channel probably makes like $300 per month, and that's not enough to pay my rent. And Udemy doesn't make enough to cover rent either. So I'm living off of savings. And once MOONSHIRE releases, hopefully it'll perform well. And if it doesn't, I'll find something else to do. It'll be okay. Crocodile jump scare. Yeah, the crocodile is down here. Ah! I love the crocodile, by the way. I think that this is designed so well. It's a really, really cool enemy. It is funny, though, that the crocodile ended up being smaller than the mammoth. But actually, I guess that kind of makes sense. I love the mammoth. Big mammoth fan. The only thing that I don't like about the mammoth is the eyeball. I'm struggling. Maybe it needs, like, an intermediate color here. Instead of putting white there, I could make it, like, a light gray. Or maybe I could use the orange. Like that. No. What if it's like almost black? No. Consistency is most important. I love that I consistently do this. Yeah, I think so too. It's in general, habits are the best way to get things done, because you're not going to be motivated always. But if you are disciplined, that's the main thing. So discipline means that you're able to get work done when you know that you should. And that's the main thing. I do feel like I'm disciplined, but I wouldn't say I'm organized. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. And I want to export this just so I can get things tested. Imagine streamers that stream for 4 hours daily and have 3 times as much comments and have to choose which comments are valuable to the stream. Sure, and really, I feel that way with my streams sometimes already, where some people are really wanting to get their question in, but I'm focused on like working on pixel art, so I'm not able to respond. It is a lot to balance, and streamers have it their own ways, and regular people have it their own ways too. If you have a job, it's a balance finding time between that job and everything else that you want to do. If you have a family, it's hard to balance that too. If you have other obligations, there's endless things that we can talk about that will get in the way between you and your goals. And like this list here that I showed a second ago, this is just the list of things that relate to my personal job, my personal channel. This doesn't even relate to the things that are in my personal life or my social life or any other goals. And if I had a job, like a full-time job, it wouldn't be on this list either. It's everyone has their own things that they have to work on and prioritize, and I'm just trying to make the best choices for like my own workflow. Why don't I use Linux? The main reason is just because I've been using Windows my whole life. I'm so used to it by now that switching isn't really worth it. I understand that the benefits of Linux are pretty attractive. The free, like the openness of it and how it's not bogged down with a bunch of stuff. Windows does have its problems. Like I was showing earlier how like my browsers were crashing and Windows Explorer crashes on me once in a while. That's definitely annoying. But learning a new operating system is also annoying, and not having all of the software that you need to work is also annoying. Like my video editor is Camtasia. I don't think that's a Linux. That's not on Linux. So I'd have to have two computers in itself just to be able to support Linux, or be dual booted, which is also an option. That's something I probably should do. If you didn't know, on Windows computers and probably Macs too, except not the recent ones, you're able to dual boot two different operating systems to your computer at once. So you can have one partition that's running Windows and then one partition that's running Linux. So the same computer can basically have two computers just installed in different places on your hard drive, so that you can boot up your computer in Windows mode, and then now it's in Windows, and then you can boot up your computer in Linux mode, and then now you're in Linux. And that's a really nice option, because then if you're using Linux full-time and it turns out there's a piece of software that's not supported on Linux, like you could just switch over to your Windows partition and run it from there. Or like there's emulators too on Linux that can run Windows applications, so it's not out of the question. But in general, since I'm more familiar with Windows, sticking with Windows makes more sense for me. So now that I have this sprite sheet ready, I'm going to go ahead and export as sprite sheet. So you can export sprite sheet, and oh, it shows you preview. Perfect. Output is going to be mobs, Mammoth. Okay. Now I did this last week, I think, where I have the mobs, then I have the souls. I'm gonna make a new one called Mammoth. Whoops, Mammoth.lua is what I should have called it. Mammoth.lua. And what do I think of AI? You think it can replace pixel art artists in the future? I don't replace. No. I don't think AI really is going to replace anything. It's just going to streamline productive people. So with pixel art, for example, if I was a pixel art, well, I am a pixel artist, so I don't use AI for any of my pixel art, mainly just because the pixel art that gets produced is not super good yet. But like, let's say in 10 years, AI is much better, and AI is able to make really, really good pixel art. I think that I would consider it, but it's still not going to replace having a human pixel artist. So if in 10 years I had a team, I was the programmer, there's a pixel artist, and then there's a musician, for example, let's say. The three of us are working together, and I could never get rid of the pixel artist. Even if AI becomes so good that it can make pixel art that is just genuinely great, I would still need a human person to look at the output and adjust it and fix it and make it adapt to this art style that I'm working with. I really don't think at any point, or at least in our lifetimes, AI is going to be so good that it can completely replace an artist. But I do think it will come to the point where artists can use AI to speed up their process a lot. And maybe in 10 years, pixel art will be that way, where instead of... Because like, this is what I do with my pixel art. A lot of my art comes from open source paid asset packs. So let me try to find an example. This bookshelf, or this shelf. This is a pixel art shelf. And how this sprite was made is I found an asset pack that looked similar to this, and I thought that its style was similar to mine. So I bought the asset pack, I imported it, and then I made adjustments to the color palette, to the shading, to like the black lines, and I made it like perfectly match my style so that it fits in really, really well. And then that works out. Now, the alternative is what AI would be in the future, where instead of like sifting through paid asset packs, I could instead use AI to generate like 100 different sprites that look similar to this. And you know, AI is always going to be like kind of, it's never going to be perfect. It's going to generate a bunch of sprites, and most of them are going to be bad, but some of them are going to be okay. And then you can pick one of those out and use that as the starting point. So really, I don't think in the future it's going to be that much different. It's just, instead of me pulling starting points from other real people, I might start pulling starting points from AI or other people's generated work, or I don't really know. We're entering uncharted territory because it's all very strange, and AI is very weird because it's trained off of other people's artwork. If I use an AI to generate pixel art, but that AI references other people's pixel art to create this new pixel art, is like, that raises a moral question on if I should be doing that. And currently I'm not. Like, there's no question. I'm just not using it because there's no reason for me to do it. But in the future, like, how are things going to evolve and change where AI gets incorporated into the art process? Because like, especially today, art is such a point of contention where, like, I understand why. Art made by a human tends to be just generally way better than what an AI can do. And it replacing people with AI is just not really the right strat. And I approve of that. In 10 or 20 years, though, I do think that artists are going to be using AI in some capacity, either to do their shading for them, or to perfect their colors, or to create starting points, or to fix up inconsistencies. I do think that AI is going to be utilized in some way or another. But right now, it's in such an in-between, and I would almost say controversial point. Right now, AI, especially in the art world, is particularly controversial, and that's another reason why I stay away from it. I don't use AI for any art assets in this game. I use it for some of the coding, and for like kind of idea generation, and if I'm searching the web, I use AI, but generating assets, I just don't think it's at the point yet where it's useful. But when it does, and assuming the moral questions are figured out, then I think that it probably will be good and it'll be useful. But yeah, like, I know that my answer is kind of wishy-washy. It's kind of like I'm playing both sides, but that's because I am. It's because I see the potential in AI, but I also see the problems that it carries with it. It has a lot of mixed issues, and I think over time it'll work out for the best. But it's the same as like when desktop computers came out. There used to be companies that they hired people that just did calculations on pen and paper, like the accountants. The accountants would have to just manually add up the numbers to figure out how much money your company had. But then desktop computers came out and spreadsheets came out, and those people lost their jobs. And it's sad to have people lose their jobs, but it's also like, it's just an efficiency thing. Like the task of manually adding up numbers to get a final number it's like a mundane task that humans don't really want to do, but at the time they did need to do it. And AI is kind of infringing on that again. It's kind of like the next stage where it's also going to be taking jobs by getting rid of the mundane ones. And the scary part is that it's infringing on like creative work. It's able to do writing, and it's able to do art, 3D modeling. That's something that's not that, like, no one really expected. I think that in general most people kind of expected that art and writing and creative fields were protected from technology because computers can't really match the creativity that a human can produce. And that is still true, but AI is able to mimic creativity in a pretty convincing way but that creativity is based off of other people's work, which is why it's so, like, iffy. Yeah, the whole thing is very iffy. And I think that that's why for the rest of Moonshire, and for the entirety of Moonshire, I haven't used AI for the assets at all, just because, like, it's contentious, and it's not really necessary or useful at the moment. AI pixel art I just have not been impressed by, so it's just better for me to hire other people to do it instead. How do I make the grass like the stacking and Sprite on top of another one? Yeah, that's a good question. I can show that real quick. The grass is literally what you just described, where where is it? Sorry, environment. The organization of my sprites is really, really bad. Plants. I have to skip the song because it's too loud. What a shame, I like that song. Okay. So in this folder, I have all these sprites. Let me load them up into a sprite. It'll be easier to see. Actually, the sunflower is a really good example. So the sunflower is separated into 3 different layers. These are the 3 layers. We have the stem, we have this set of leaves, and then this set of leaves. So there's 3 different layers. And if you look really closely at the sunflower in-game, I'm going to go back over to where it is. Uh-oh. It's really, really tough to see, but you can see the individual leaves are moving in their own pattern. The stem is moving independently from the leaves, and that creates this, like, ripple effect. And yeah, all of the blades of grass that you see on the ground are doing the same thing, and the flowers too, where one piece is moving in its own movement, and the other piece is moving in its own movement, which creates this, like, wave effect, and it makes it look really, really nice. And then on top of it, you can, like, interact with it. When the player, like, walks over top of it, you can see the sunflower moves around. I think that's cool. All the grass and the flowers do that too. AI in games is mostly state machines or behavioral trees, which is fancy statement. If you were being sarcastic. Well, so AI means lots of things, because AI was in games from the start. You could say that, like, the original Pokemon games had AI because the AI had to choose what attacks the opponents were going to use. But that type of AI is different than the type of AI that we're talking about today. Like, we're talking about generative AI, AI that generates creative output. So that includes AI that is able to write an essay, or generate images, or generate videos, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have been seeing it, but the AI videos have gotten unbelievable in the past year, in the past few months even. Human AI videos are crazy. They're really, really crazy. Isn't the Pokemon AI just a random number generator? Not exactly. It's more complex than that, because it chooses what attacks to use, and there's different levels of difficulty. So in Pokemon 1, the wild Pokemon would use random attacks. That was truly a random number generator. And when you fought a trainer, that was not a random number. It would instead, the trainer would use some kind of AI logic to decide what attack the Pokemon was going to use. And so, for example, if that opponent Pokemon had a super effective attack against yours, then the AI was smart enough to choose that one attack, compared to a wild Pokemon, which is truly random. And you compare that to a gym leader, which has even smarter AI, it's able to really figure out what attacks to use that are, like, actually strategic. So there is AI involved, but that type of AI is different. Or, like, if you're playing Zelda 1, or Pac-Man. How about Pac-Man, the original? The ghosts follow Pac-Man around, and there's AI involved with having those Pac-Man, like, ghosts choose which path to take. And that type of AI is different than generative AI. That's just logic. And my game has that too. I have Mob Mind. This is meant to be the, like, decision-making section. Because AI, really, in terms of enemy AI, is just decision-making. what should the enemy do in any given situation. And that's why I wrote this function evaluate that just goes through and figures out, it looks at what state are you in, what timers are active, what things need to happen in order to achieve your goal. Because I think that it talks about the goal here. Yeah, if the goal is to enter, it's going to do the specific task. I don't need to say to do here anymore. If the goal is to follow, then it's going to follow. That sort of thing. So the decision-making process here, like, I call this AI, but it's not AI like ChatGPT. It's just the logic for artificially making the enemies intelligent. If an enemy seems smart, that means that there's some artificial intelligence involved, but that doesn't mean that ChatGPT is involved. It just means that... Can someone please tell what's happening? I'm just talking about AI and talking about artificial intelligence and video games and enemy AI and things like that, because it's all kind of conflated. When you say the word AI, I hear Joe Costa, right? This is what the stream's all about. It's like an illusion. It's an illusion of AI. Is that AI in games is just the programmers telling the code, what do you need to do so that you look smart? But at the end of the day, the enemies in Zelda aren't really that smart. They just have instructions that when Link is nearby, you're going to move towards him. And when you're within this range, you're going to do this attack. And if this item is nearby, you're going to walk over to the item. And it's just like a set of instructions for what it's going to do. That's not like inherent knowledge. They didn't like plug ChatGPT into the game. And now there's like this sentient robot that's controlling all the moblins. It's not like that. It's just that Nintendo coded in that the moblins do this under these circumstances, and it does this under these circumstances. It's just like a big collection of different circumstances and situations that change what choices that the mob makes. And that's what this file here is doing, is that every so often, every few frames, it evaluates its current situation to decide, like, if we are in cooldown, we need to idle. Or if we are currently waiting, we need to idle. If we're entering, we need to choose the entrance task. If we're following something, we need to find our navigation. Otherwise, we need to stay in place. If we're attacking, we need to choose what attack we need to do based on this function. So there's a lot of logic that goes in here. But I didn't use, like, ChatGPT to generate this. ChatGPT isn't connected anywhere here. This is just, like, the logic that controls the intelligence of the enemies. And so, by some classifications, that is AI. It's just not really... It's not generative AI. But long story short is that there's a difference between generative AI and enemy AI. Enemy AI is just like the instructions that enemies do on their own to, like, walk around the world or attack you. Whereas generative AI is an attempt to create creative assets and products that mimic what a human would create. And those are kind of independent things. But you can still incorporate generative AI into a game. Like, there's those AI games where you can, like, talk to the AI. I remember seeing that Moist Critical video of him playing, it's like a mystery game where he has to, like, solve a mystery, and you solve the mystery by actually typing questions to an AI, and then it answers the questions as if it's real. It's really, really cool how they managed to set that up, but it's also kind of scary the way it works. Skyrim mod where NPCs had ChatGPT hooked into it. Yeah, that's really crazy. But it's also really immersive because you can kind of just, like, say weird things and act funny, and then they'll react to you. And like the Skyrim example, picture in Skyrim where, like, you slash someone in the head, like, instead of saying, you've committed crimes against the king, you are under arrest. Like, imagine they said, oh, you sliced me in the head, you annoying jerk. Or, like, they said very specific things to the situation, or where we are, or what was around you, or what weapon you used. There's all kinds of, like, highly specific things that they could say that you can't really plan for. The script writers couldn't possibly have a script in place that accounts for every single weapon hitting every single part of a character's body and then them reacting in the appropriate way. But generative AI could potentially do that if you had a ChatGPT hooked up to Skyrim, for example, it could potentially be smart enough where if you did something silly, then the NPCs could comment on it. If you like push someone off a cliff, and the generative AI noticed that and understood what the situation was, it could generate a script or statement that matches that, and it could be insanely funny and incredible. And that's what I think the true use for generative AI in games could be. I don't think that the like generating assets is going to be that cool. I think that human-made assets are still going to be useful. I think that generative AI will be helpful with like streamlining the process, making it faster, but like human-made products and creativity, there's not going to be any replacement for that. But as far as like supplementing it, I think it could be really funny. I got inspired by the combat of my game and the way the main character carries the axe. I would like to know how I do it. Yeah, that's a common question because it's actually a little bit complex. If we take a look at the player sprite, let me pull this up real quick. Player 2. Okay, so here we have an example of the player. It's the fully red version, but it's the same idea. So let's say the player was trying to carry like the great sword or the great axe, like you were saying. The way that works is like you see that the handle of the axe is overlapping with the player's hand, and like it goes behind their head and sticks out this way, so it looks like it's over the shoulder. And the way that's achieved is by separating the player out into layers. So you can see here at the bottom, there's different layers. I have the eye layer. If I go here, this is the eye layer. This is the head layer, body, arm, and belly, and feet. So the way that the great axe works is it literally draws the feet, the belly, the arm, then it draws the axe, then it draws the head over top of the axe, and then it draws the eyes over top of that. So basically there's an order to which parts of the sprite gets drawn first. These bottom parts of the body gets drawn first, then the axe gets drawn, and then the player's head gets drawn, so that in the end you get this like sandwich where the player's body is on the bottom, the axe is in the middle, and then the head is on top. I think sometime in the future we'll get a Sea of Stars stream. That would be kind of cool. I don't know if I'll stream it, but I'll definitely be playing it. Poor water bottle. I don't know which water bottle you're talking about, but that reminded me that I needed to hydrate. So back to what I was doing. I made a mammoth file, but I never actually finished it. So let's go ahead and do this. This is going to be round L. All this stuff is probably fine. Solid. I'm going to move solid down to static. So all of these properties here are just going to be properties that apply to the mammoth. And I should have the mammoth sprite sheet exported too. Do I have something for viewing specific objects, like only have one enemy on screen that you can call? Kind of. I have my debug menu. So if I was working with a specific mob, I would go under like here, and then mob, and then spawn a slime, and then it creates a slime. So that's something I've been using to help with testing. Code with Codify. Can I give you mine? Please respond. I want to talk to you personally. Can I get your Discord username? You can join the Discord, and it's Shallocate on Discord. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was going to work on the mammoth. So if I find the mammoth sprite under mobs, what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and get this imported into the game. And the way that works is that every frame on this elephant is 64 by 64. So that means back in the Mammoth file, I need to make sure that I specify frame width is 64 and frame height is also 64. And there's two animations to start with. There's idle and sleep. So idle is going to be row 1, columns 1 through 4. And the speed, we'll make the speed something like 0.4 at first. Now, the enemy should idle at first by default. I'm not going to give it any attacks. I don't want it to have any attacks. Mass is 5. Mass doesn't matter because it's static. Contact damage is 0. Yeah, because it's non-hostile. Width and height. This is actually going to be a lot wider. So width and height is the physics width and height. This is different than the frame width and height. So the physics width and height is like from here to here. So approximately 42 by 20. And I'll probably have to adjust this, but this is 42 pixels wide and 20 pixels tall. I think I can apply a corner value to mob.corner. How do I do this? Mob physics. There's a corner value. Corner. Oct corner is what I called it. That's an odd name. Oct corner. Mob.oct corner equals probably like 5. What is the difference between physics width and height and just the entire sprite? Yeah, so the I'll show you. In the game, every object has a physics boundary to it. Like the player or this guy, if I turn on collisions, check it out. There's this circle around where the player's body is. This is the physics like width and height. This is the actual colliding box that has like where the player actually is. Versus the sprite width and height is actually bigger. Like you can see the player's sprite is bigger than the physics width and height, and that's why there's a distinction between this 64 by 64 versus this 42 by 20. And I think that this is ready for me to try out. Actually, it's not. I need to go to Assets. And let's try to find the slime. I'm going to add this to the list of mobs. And I'll call it mobs.mammoth. The whole Gen 5 OST again. That's one of my favorites. I can't believe how good they did with that one. Gen 5 is... I really like Gen 5 like as a whole. I wish Gen 4 had Gen 5's engine is what I mean. I like Gen 5 is so quick and snappy, and I like how everything looks in that game. And I like the story of Gen 5 too. You should listen to Hunter x Hunter OST. I actually haven't listened to, or I haven't seen that before. I have such good music taste, thank you. Yeah, I have a long history of Nintendo music stockpiled up. Oh, and by the way, like, my playlist has some non-Nintendo music, and sometimes my streams get claimed, and I have to remove them from my playlist. So doing these streams helps me gauge which companies are okay with their music being played on streams, and which companies are not okay with it. It's kind of like a nice balance. Which, by the way, I'm okay with any... If I'm using someone's music, everyone whose music I'm using has any right to say, please don't use that, because it's not mine. It's not my music. Nintendo is okay with people using their music. They don't claim it. So that's why I use it. But other companies, I'm noticing that Square Enix, like my previous stream, or a couple streams ago, I got a song claimed because it was from Chrono Trigger. One of the battle songs from Chrono Trigger on the SNES got claimed. And that sounds so strange. Like, you would think that a classic NES song or SNES song wouldn't be impacted by copyright, but it still is. And that's just because Square protects their assets, and that's perfectly fine. I fully support every company doing that. It's just a little disappointing because I want to play that song, that's all. So the Mammoth sprite is imported. Now I can... There's some of the game on Steam. Oh, I didn't even think about that. The song is too quiet. I have to bump it up. So over in Mob here, I need to add the Mammoth to the list of options. Actually, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's just... Maybe I can just spawn it. So, to test things out, I'm gonna go ahead and... If key is equal to Q, then we're going to go ahead and spawn that mammoth. And I'm just going to say mammoth like that, and it will idle. Now, I think this is probably going to crash if I had to guess, but maybe it won't. Let's see. It did. Okay. Can't find the sprite. So somewhere this was not set properly. Oh, whoops. That's why. That was left over from when I copied this, file. Let's try that again. There he is. There's our big boy. Okay, and then let's look at his collision. Okay, so the collision is way off. This is something that I always have to do whenever I'm making new entities. Is, like, obviously his body should be up here, so that means I need to go into the code, and this off Y value is -10. I think that it needs to be much more. The reason it's like that is because the sprite has a lot of this empty space up at the top. The reason there's so much empty space up here, by the way, is because there's going to be frames like this, where he's standing upright, which are really tall. So I need that extra space. But since there's so much extra space, that means I need to also offset that extra space like this. Shadow Y is probably fine. W Mammoth, by the way, thank you. And there. Still probably not enough. Oh, actually, the physics is really good, but the shadow needs to be moved down. Also, that makes sense. I'm going to make the physics wider. It can be wider. So width is going to be like 46. Octa corner can be less, and then shadow needs to go down. Maybe I can make this go up by a tiny bit more. And now we're gonna leave it. So cool to see from art code into the game. Yeah, I like this process too. In this case, it's mostly just like making sure this file that configures everything, because this mammoth file I made, it literally all it is just like setting all these properties, like what are the frame width and height, what animations do we have, how much health does it have, and it's like all of these are really minor details that, like, I wouldn't even call this coding. It's just like setting all these properties appropriately so that it like gets organized properly, and then later on I'll like give it, if I do give it attacks or I make it move around, then it'll be a little bit more complex. Did I draw the mammoth? No, I didn't draw the mammoth, but I did adjust the colors, and I was working on like the eyeball and making fixes to it. Ellie drew the original sprite. So let's go ahead and, yeah, let's try this now. Whoop! Shadow is still screwed up. Also, I think I need to make a much bigger shadow for him. Physics is perfect. Physics is very perfect. I love it. Shadow needs to come down, so let me fix that real quick. Instead of shadow Y, it should be like this. Switch between one map to another, any game state. So yeah, the game only has one map loaded at a time. Load map. There's only one map loaded at a time, and it's loaded in this loaded map variable or table, and since it's only one at a time, it sets all these properties for loaded map, and then when you change to a new map, it just resets loaded map to nothing, loads the new one, and that's it. So it just reloads every map on the fly, and that's how I make it work. Okay, so here's our elephant. It's still messed up because the shadow needs to be moved up slightly now, and I also need to make it bigger. a bigger shadow. So we're gonna make the shadow more like, looks like this, and round L, maybe wide L? Wide L? What is that in a function instead of a table? I'm talking about the function. I'm new, I really suck at this. What is that in a function? So if you're talking about, like, here, how I'm calling this function, or, I don't know, where else was I doing it? Loaded map, I think. Whenever you call a function, whenever you see parentheses like this, it's called a function. And then the stuff that you put inside of the parentheses is called the parameters. So basically here, in this case, this is the path to the map I want to load. So this is a function called STI, and I'm passing it a parameter that is this. It's just the path to the map file. How did I learn how to code? I took a high school programming class, and then after that I took like computer science in college, and then I was a software developer after college. So it's just like a lot of studying and practice. Unfortunate function name. It's actually a very deliberate function name. So the thing about Love2D is that all of the libraries, or I should say all of them, a big portion of the libraries are meant to be suggestive, or, you know, like, kind of meant to be, like, kind of flirty, because the name of the engine is Love, so that's why they called it Hump. There's this library called Hump. Simple tile implementation, STI, also kind of suggestive. The one I made is called Lip Service, you know. I wouldn't say that's suggestive, but it has kind of a double meaning. So the STI thing that was an intentional thing that someone did when they made that library. They did that on purpose. Make sure you watch Hunter x Hunter and not Solo Leveling. Okay. I mean, yeah, I want to watch Hunter x Hunter just because I've heard really good things about it. Is Love2D free? Yeah, it's completely free. It's free and open source. Should I use Love2D or Godot or Unity? You know what my advice is? You should download all of them and try them all out and see which one you like the best, because they're all free. There's no right answer. Any one of them can work, and you can do it. You can make good games with any of those frameworks or engines, and since they're all free, there's no reason not to just try it. Okay, we're gonna try out the bigger shadow sprite for the elephant. It's actually not bigger at all. I might have to make a whole new sprite specifically for this elephant because I don't have one that's big enough. So I have this folder called Shadows, and it's just a bunch of white blobs. It's a bunch of white blobs, and these get turned into the shadows. And it looks like I do have one called Round XL. That's what I'm gonna try. Round XL. This might be big enough. Okay. That's better. Let's spawn a bunch of them. Oh yeah, we can spawn as many as we want. That's a lot of elephants. So is it centered? I think that the shadow needs to be moved to the left a little bit. And I think I'm able to do that. There's shadow Y. Is there shadow X? There might be. Let's just test to make sure that it works. It does. It does work. That's good. I was afraid that it wouldn't work. So now I can say shadow X equals like -3. How I spawn the mammoth in a specific spot only. Well, so the way I'm spawning in a specific spot is I have a hotkey where I typed in if the key is equal to Q. So if you press the Q key, then it spawns a mammoth at the player's position plus 48. So it's the player's position 48 pixels to the right. That's how I'm spawning it. Okay. What kind of chair do I use at my desk? It's actually a recliner. Ah. So comfy. So let's see how that worked. Will my game come out to play? Maybe eventually. I mean, you can play it right now on Steam. That's still not quite right. I think I need to move it to the left some more. Like this. GameKey Universe. Hi, welcome in. Why not make an enum for the shadows? Well, I kind of am. So what I'm doing is I have all of these sprites in this folder. And whenever anything needs a sprite for a shadow, or whenever anything needs a shadow, you just give it this property shadow sprite, and then it's a string. Now, what you're suggesting is to use an enum, and that is essentially the same thing. All that an enum would be is somewhere in my code, I would say like, I would call it like shadow enum equals this, and then I could actually manually go through and say, yeah, like this. And then like that. But at the end of the day, it is just a collection of strings, and these strings line up one-to-one with the file names for all of these shadow blob sprites. So since the set list is exactly one-to-one matching this, I haven't really felt the need to create an enum for it. I think it's easier just to choose the sprite name for the file that I want to use, if that makes sense. Is it a tedious job to change the values? I mean, yeah, it is. It's tedious to change values around, but you kind of had to do that. I shouldn't say you have to do that. If I had a better debugging setup where you can like pause the processes of the game and then change values manually on the fly, that would work too. But yeah, it is what it is. I love the game character. Yeah, thank you. How do you make the animations using tween? In my case, I'm using a library. So in Love2D, there's this library called Flux. So I'm using Flux to do all my tweens. And a tween just means you're transitioning one value from one value to another. This might be the best gaming community? Well, I'm so flattered. Thank you for saying that. That's really kind of you to say. Let's see. So what else was I going to do? I think I was going to move this over a little bit more. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I might move it up one more. But this is not bad. Yeah, so I think that a better way to develop this is if instead of having to restart the game every time, it was like I was able to pause the game and change values around on the fly without needing to like recompile everything. But this really isn't that big of a deal. So we got our elephant. He's solid. He stands. You can hit him. Oh, he's dead. Okay, that was sad. I accidentally killed him. Sorry. Let's give him a lot. Let's give him 30 health. I don't want him to die. How many wish lists is Moonshire at now? I'm sorry. I don't think I want to share the number. It's just Chalakay's overwhelming charisma reflecting upon us. Wow, you guys are so nice. How hard is it to learn coding? Well, I mean, it's the same as like it's hard to learn anything really. It's hard to learn a new skill. It's hard to learn a new instrument. So learning coding from scratch is hard. But what makes it easier is if you just go at a reasonable pace. If you give yourself an easy starter project to get started with, to ease yourself into it, it's not too hard. And then like you just up the difficulty over time so that you're gradually overcoming different challenges and learning new skills and getting better. It shouldn't be something that stops you from giving it a shot. But you're always going to get better. You don't like learn coding and then you start making games. Really what I would say is you make games and then you learn coding while you're doing it, and you're not going to be very good at coding at first because you're brand new to it. So it's just a matter of like overcoming that obstacle. That's how you learn. I would say learning to code is easy, but knowing which concept to use where is the hard part. Yeah, I'd say so too, is that coding is problem solving. And sure, you can learn the syntax for all this stuff. You can learn how Lua works and how to do everything. But problem solving and debugging and figuring out how to organize things, like all that stuff comes from experience. And there's no way to like sit down and learn it. You can't, there's no book, there's no YouTube videos that'll teach you how to do it. It's just something that you have to do all the time. And then after doing it for, I don't know, a few years, you get pretty decent and you can make good stuff. Can I make a video on how I structure my code bases? Yeah, that's actually a pretty good suggestion because this code base is so large, and I imagine there's lots of other people that are working on large projects too that would be helpful. Probably not immediately, but yeah, that's something I could totally do. Also, I pronounce it as N, E-N, I don't know what you're talking about. Enam? Oh, you're talking about enums? If you're talking about this word, enum, it's definitely pronounced how I said it, enum. I've heard people say enum, that's also fine. But the reason it's called enum or enum is because it's short for the word enumeration. So it's enumeration, so the shortened word is enum, and that's why it's pronounced that way, by the way. That's I think that's pretty conclusive. But if someone said enum, I think that's also fine. Trying to learn Lua coding in general, do you have any suggestions on how to learn it, or how did I learn it? Coding in general, I mean, so the way that you would learn coding in general is just find something you want to work on. In my case, it's video games. I like making games, and if you don't know how to code, you can still make games. Just download one of the easy game frameworks and try it out. And you're gonna get stuck on stuff, but overcoming those challenges is how you learn. So like the only way to get better is just to try it out. I have a video, I actually have a bunch of tutorials on my channel for learning the basics of coding and all that stuff. Add some obscure, deep, and dark lore to the game. Yeah, I plan on I'm planning doing that. I'm having tacos. For lunch, actually, I'm going to Chili's. Or maybe. I'm going out with my family. I think that we were planning on going to Chili's, but I'm not sure. It just depends. In the US, we have this restaurant called Chili's. Do people know what Chili's is? I'm not sure if that's just an American restaurant. But I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I am getting very hungry, so I'm glad we're approaching the end of the stream, because I'm eager. But before the end of the stream, what else can I... You never heard of it? Oh man, you guys are missing out. Yeah, Chili's is like, what would I describe Chili's as? I would call it like, it's American food, but like almost Tex-Mex, because they have tacos and they have things, I don't know. Cheetos. No, it's not Cheetos. Never heard or never seen Chili's. Oh man, next time you guys have a Chili's experience that you can go do, gotta have it. They have them at airports a lot too in the US. I'd say probably half the time that I eat at Chili's, it's at an airport. Also, by the way, this is what the rooms look like when they're undecorated. I think it's kind of funny walking through this room because I just recently replaced all the tiles to reorganize it, and when like there's no grass on the ground, there's no rocks or cracks, and there's no nothing's here. It feels very empty, and it is funny walking through the maps like this just because it just doesn't look right. Oh, I also changed this section. I used to make it so that you had to burn something here and then swim across a gap to get over here, but I'm going to make it so that you can take your torch over to this section, and then you'll actually be able to continue on with the torch into this snowy area. Because it is kind of weird. In my original plan for the game is I was going to give players the torch, and then the first place that you had to use it, you would have to swim. So that didn't make sense. If you had to swim, you'd lose the torch and then you couldn't use it. So I'm going to change this section over here so that you can, you have the torch, you burn through some of these vines, and then you do a fight with the torch too. Because otherwise, you wouldn't get that opportunity. That's one of the challenges with all these weapons, is that I have all these weapon options, and I'm planning to have 20. But if there's 20 weapons, that means there has to be at least enough encounters to give players the opportunity to test them all out. Like right now at the end of the demo, there probably will be a grand total of 20 encounters, but is that enough to like really get a feel for all the things that I want to, like, is that enough for players to experiment with the weapon enough? Because like in Elden Ring, I normally have to use a new weapon for quite a while before I can decide whether or not I'm happy with using it more. What happens if the torch gets wet? Are you soft locked? So the way the way the weapons work in this game is that weapons are kind of meant to be disposable, where you can either shatter your own weapons, or if you are using a torch and you get the torch wet, the torch will just break. And whenever you go back to a sunflower or something, I want to make it... What is this? There's just a big shadow there. What are those? There's a bunch of shadows everywhere. That's weird. After a weapon breaks, it's going to be very easy to get it back, where you just go to a save point and you can respawn, or like I want there to be several points in the game, lots of points, where you can just open up this menu, click on a weapon, and then now you switch. And that switch is going to be what makes it really easy for experimenting. And there just has to be enough fights to make sure that players have that opportunity to do it. I bet that there are invisible trees. Yeah, there's invisible trees. I think what's actually happening is that these trees are located underneath of the cliff. If I go to this map, this is D5. So what we're seeing is this tree Snowy. I don't actually know. It says it's supposed to be on top. Maybe I need to re-export this map? No, that didn't work. I actually don't know why that's doing it. I think that there's a problem. I think that there's actually a bug. I think that there's a bug with how the trees are being rendered, because right now they're being drawn. These should be drawn on top of the cliff, but it's being drawn underneath the cliff. And I have this property in tiled where you can specify, is this supposed to be on top? It's hard to see, but this is called the top property. And it's set properly for all of these, so I don't know why it's being hidden underneath of it. But I'll be able to figure that out later. I think that for now, I am going to call it quits on the stream. It's been a really, really good one. Thank you so much all for being here. I've had so many folks in chat today, a lot of newcomers, and a lot of returning people. I really do appreciate you stopping in, and I will be back next week for more Moonshire Monday, more stuff, more pixel art, more level design, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you, Conning, and Ratman, and King Bloom, Layeeps, Vasto, Sing Along, and Code with Codfi, Codfi, 50K, Nick and Sophie. Thank you so much again. I will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.